Hey y'all, so this is definitely going to be one of the weirdest war videos I ever put out. I am not an Omega Red player, but this is a rank 3 Omega Red here that I'm bringing in. Similarly, I am not running recoil for these fights. And please don't go into the comments and tell me how much better Omega Red is if you're running Double Edge. I am aware. I really am. But it wasn't necessary for these fights. Um, I talked to Omega Red players about these just to be sure and confirm my suspicions. They agreed, and the results will speak for themselves, honestly. But the point of this first fight is basically just Apocalypse was banned, if I remember correctly, and so we were just going to deal with the damage reflection from Kingpin. We were also going to be dealing with significantly boosted combat power rate because that's just who Kingpin is. And so I just assumed that going through this full fight, I would get my heavies in where I could, but I was going to be sticking to heavies, mediums, and specials. And I would have to be careful with the specials because of the increased combat power rate, but it was basically this or somebody like Namor. And this was working pretty well. Now, ideally, I would have heavy canceled into that special too, and I definitely would have landed that parry right there. That was fun. Because then we could have locked in 10 spores and just sat on them a lot longer, and we'd probably be doing better here. But this is also proving why the recoil masteries weren't necessary for this, because the whole point of this fight, yes, it's faster if you can lock in big spores right at the start. But the important thing is just to keep doing damage to him and to not get hosed by the damage reflection. That is the big threat in this fight, is the damage reflection, and Omega Red just turns it off as long as we stick to tentacle hits. That's why we're using him here. Everything else is just incidental. So going pretty well. We've obviously taken a fair amount of block damage. I forget, but I'm sure this is a rank 4 Kingpin. This is a rank 3 Omega Red, like I said. We do not have the Sabretooth synergy. I just could not fit it. But this is working for us. Man, what a weird war. Anyway, that's down. We'll heal him up later. We move on to this Dragon Man on the next fight. Something is weird about this armor break node. I've actually been meaning to go look at it. My suspicion is it's one of that family of nodes that has secret extra ability accuracy, because when it was first designed, it was supposed to actually be beneficial to the attacker. We probably do need to update its description to reflect that if that is true. Anyway, I'm expecting some degen back, but I am also expecting that I'm going to be doing so much damage with Magneto House of X's special 2s that the damage, the degen that we get from applying the armor break is just not going to matter. Now, we are going to be ramping a little bit more slowly than normal, because important to remember, if you haven't used Magneto House of X all that much, the prowesses that he gets from his heavy are both stronger and longer lasting than those he just gets from randomly hitting the opponent. And so we would have ramped a bit better had we been able to land a few of those, but that just would have gotten the armor break in sooner, and we would have taken more damage, so not at all worth it here. It is nice to note that the armor break applies before the degen from the special 2, meaning that we always guaranteed get 2 degens, because that second degen is looking for the armor break being active. So that actually is a really nice thing about this particular fight. Additionally, I also messed up the special 1 evade, but thankfully taking Dragon Man so many times in Eternity of Pain has me pretty fresh on the heavy evade in the corner, and so we got out of there. Again, we'll just heal him later with Omega Red. So, I'm headed into this fight with Thing against Doctor Doom. Once we put the guidance pre-fight on, then we don't have to worry about Conflictor. We don't have to worry about Hazard Shift. So basically all that's left is a giant Doctor Doom. Now, Doom has very high armor and crit resist. Thing is never going to crit against him. He has no way to get around the armor, so I'm just going to assume this is going to be a very long fight. That's why I came over here and did this duel. The sole purpose of this duel is making sure I'm on top of my special evades. I'm usually pretty good about the special one. I'm not terribly concerned if I miss it in this fight, because if I do get hit, all it's going to mean is that I take a tiny, tiny hit. You don't have to worry about the shock that it nullifying your dexterity would normally cause, because Thing is both immune to nullify and to shock. And so that's just one less thing that Doom can do to be a problem. Now, Mystic Dispersion is, of course, going to be annoying, but the big thing that we're doing here is practicing the Special 2 decks, because that's what can kill you. Also, it was good to get that little reminder to make sure the last hit is outside of aura so we don't have any resistances. We do not want to get a heavy crit to the face. So 2 good Special 2 dexes in a row, feeling pretty good about that. We're going to go ahead and throw this one, reminding myself that although there's a stagger on the Special 2, as long as we don't get up to 20 rock stacks there when we throw it, we won't apply the stun, so we don't have to worry about Conflictor with that either. And that should be pretty safe, because the bleeds from Hazard Shift are going to be keeping our rock stacks relatively low. It should be difficult to accidentally get to 20. So then we fast forward to the actual fight. I got in my 3 Special 2 dexes. I was feeling really clean about it. I'm good to go. It's only a rank 4 Doom. It's not a rank 5. Let's head in. So one thing I want to say on this fight is that I am trying to make sure I don't throw my heavy unless I need to, because I want to hold on to that that protection, that guaranteed protection, in case I need it. I don't expect Doom to go red here, but if I mess up a dashback and eat a full combo, it is possible. So we're really going to try and make sure we have the protection. Now, funnily enough, I did all those duels, immediately mess up the first Special 1 decks, immediately mess up the first Special 2 decks. Really not happy about how that started. I'm not sure what's going on here. And then, despite my speech just now, I go ahead and I trigger Conflictor with a Special 2. Because I parried too much in the shock mode instead of the bleed mode. So that was 100% on me. I should have waited for that to fall off. It's okay, though. We didn't push him red. And if we had pushed him red, hopefully we would have had time to charge our heavy and get protection. Because, man, that would have been a terrible way to die, doing exactly what we dueled not to do. Anyway, that first Special 2 did trigger protection. And so that basically meant that most of the incinerate damage was just eaten up by that blanket resistance. We can survive that a few times. Even if that happens again here, thankfully it doesn't. I'm feeling pretty good about, as long as the Special 2s are spaced out enough that my protection is on cooldown, I don't even have to be particularly clean in this fight. Again, we seem to mess up the Special 1 decks there, even though we dueled for it, and trigger the Unstoppable. Doesn't really matter. Trigger the Unstoppable again here, trigger a single Incinerate. The single one we don't really have to worry about. In addition to protection blunting most of it, we also have some energy resistance from the rock stacks that's helping us out. That one did sting because protection was on cooldown. This fight has just become a complete and total travesty at this point. I dueled for the special evades, and apparently, although they were flawless in the duel, and I really felt like I was going to nail like 90% of them and would just miss a couple, I actually go into the fight, and all of that prep goes out the window, and I think my success rate thus far has been like 60%. Not ideal. Anyway, probably should have thrown this special 3 earlier, but I was just trying to be super safe because clearly playing perfectly was not in the cards. What a fight. But that's why I took Thing to rank 4 in Sig 200, to save me in fights like that, and he has absolutely delivered. Good subdue attacker. Definitely underrated as an attacker. We move on to this Spidey. I have sent JT in my battle group to this fight a few times, and honestly, if you're not familiar with his channel, look up JTQ9 MCOC and check out his War 3 fight, because that is what this fight is supposed to look like. And what you are about to see is what happens when this fight goes fine. So, some context, this war was not ideal for me. I think I ended up planning a lot of it. Yeah, I ended up planning a lot of this literally while in the car with my fiance driving on our way back from Austin. A 2.5 hour car ride. And this was the plan that we came up with. And honestly, it was a good one. The results did come out well, but man, I took some fights I was really not comfortable with. And I practiced that deck so many times. I cut out about 3 minutes of duels here against Spidey as well with Thing. I was super comfortable with the special 2 decks. So it was kind of annoying to have it not work in the corner there. But we're trusting Thing. We managed to push him red with a heavy while protection was on cooldown. That was very intentional because that special 3 did stone nothing. But this is a mistake. I should not have thrown the special 3. I should have thrown a different special earlier, because getting the duration unblockable and unstoppable here means that I have just put 2 triggers of Mystic Dispersion on the clock. And there they are. Whoops, he's at a special 3 again. So that was a mistake, like I said. But that's okay. The root itself is not that dangerous. The special 3 did hurt. Would have been nice to have the invuln. But it's coming along. Like I said, if you want to see how this fight is supposed to go, check out JT's channel. This is me holding on. I've instructed other people on how to do this fight, which is probably the only thing keeping me alive here, that I've thought through the ways in which it could go wrong, and so I did adapt to them. But yeah, needless to say, that wasn't ideal. And then we have our last fight here, another Omega Red one against this Mole Man. Obviously, we do not have an Odin pre-fight. Again, we do not have the Sabretooth synergy. And so we are only going to be able to hit him during the bleed phase. But because of that, there is truly no reason to turn on Double Edge, because we're basically only going to be hitting him while we're bleeding. Anyway, it's not going to help us at all. Reminder that Double Edge and Liquid Courage do not boost the damage of Omega Red's spores, so we wouldn't even be getting a damage boost from them. So better to just avoid that, leave myself full freedom to throw my specials if I feel I need them. The Guidance pre-fight is going to make sure that I can maintain spacing and hold him off just with parries. I know this is going to be a long one. There are a lot of things working against us in how this particular fight is supposed to go. And obviously he has a ton of combat power already. We just know we're going to end up throwing some special ones when, you know, normally Omega Red would prefer not to. It's okay. We lock in a little bit of spores damage there, we hit into him, we go ahead and get rid of those buffs, because now we bought ourselves a little bit of parry time. Managed to bait him into a heavy. That's one more time he's not hitting our block. And okay, we made it through the shock phase with only 2 flourish buffs. I consider that a success. And then we push forward to this right here. Obviously the lifesteal doesn't do nearly as much damage as the spores, But if you're having trouble locking in the spores, which we obviously are here, it is still red numbers. It is still guaranteed damage that we can get out of the spores that we've accumulated, and that's why I am using it. Because I'm just assuming that this is not going to be the fastest Omega Red fight in the world, and so I need to play him for sustain. And that means using specials, using the special one. Like I said, we don't have recoil. Obviously, I would have preferred that not all 4 hits of that special one trigger shock, because that cost us a little bit. But that's okay. We are cleanly winning the health race. We do not have another fight with Omega Red here. We, like I said, we're only hitting him while we have bleed up, so we're getting pretty decent uptime on over 10 spores, all things considered. Gonna go ahead and wait out shock here. After that first shock, we are trying to sit on our specials through the shock phase so that we can immediately clear the flourish when it ends, like you're seeing. But yeah, this is going well. I'm not going to say I wasn't stressed here, because, you know, a long fight with a champion I don't play that often is not my idea of a good time when people are counting on me, but it was going okay. This is obviously against GT40, who has been taking advantage of the Herc whitelist season to post some just truly ridiculous attack bonuses. We go into every war trying to do our best, and I certainly go into every war trying not to die. This was no exception. But we also didn't really expect to win, I'll be completely blunt. I'm not looking for style points here, just wanted to get this path clean, because me taking this cleared up some other people to do probably more intelligent fights, if we're being completely blunt. Anyway, yeah, burden successfully carried, I guess. I hope I don't end up with this team again this season. It worked. Would prefer for it to have only needed to work the once. I misread. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, maybe learned something from my talking through it. Definitely something different. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.